7. I'm your host, Blain, and I'm joined now by my co-hosts, Trege Wilson.
Hello.
And Matt Smith.
Good evening.
So, it's been a quiet couple days. Nothing's going on. It's not like they handed out a Stanley Cup or nothing.
Did they? I don't know. I stopped watching.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I stopped watching. I didn't care.
Well, they did. And the Knights, true to their word, won a cup within the first 6 years.
They did. And all those fans been like with those signs that said it was such a long 6 years. It's like
The
good,
long-suffering fans.
Good for them though. They looked into the future and said that that's what we were going to do, and they did it. So good on them, I guess.
Yeah.
But the Florida Panthers, they gave them they gave them a little bit of a run, but they were so broken by the time that they got to the final. It was kind of an easy run for the Golden Knights at the end. So
Well, have you been noticing that all these different teams, they do these Cinderella runs, like the Panthers, the Canadiens, and when they get to the final, they're out of gas. They're beat up. They just can't do it anymore because they're not as deep as the other teams, and their top players are targeted more.
Right. I'll say hats off to Matt Tkachuk though, playing with a broken sternum, and like guys having to put his jersey on for him and skate and lace his skates and everything. And he still played. Good on him. But
tough motherfucker.
Smart decision though. Very smart decision not to play that last game. He's got to look at his long term.
Same with Shea Weber. He couldn't do his own skates when he was playing. But you also got to look at the teams that won in the final. They were all millions over the cap in the playoffs.
Yep.
So their depth was not only deeper, it was more talented.
Right. Like when you had like for instance, like they talked a lot about Phil Kessel.
He was a third line player.
Right. he played 4 games, the whole playoffs. Right. Played 4 games, and he was a guy that sat in the press box the whole time. Jonathan Quick, I think he played 10 games total, if that, for them. Another guy gets his 3rd cap.
It's just, but like I say, unless they fix this cap issue, this is what teams are going to do. They're just going to say, oh, Mark Stone.
Yep.
Oh, he was injured all year. Let's bring these guys in. We can use his cap space. And then what? Right before the playoffs? Oh, well, he's skating now. It looks like he might be okay. And sure enough, Kucherov with Tampa Bay the year, when they beat Montreal. It's and unless something's done about it, teams are going to keep. And you know what? The teams are not doing anything wrong. They're
within the
playing
rules.
by the rules. They're within the rules. So I'm not complaining about what the teams are doing. I'm complaining about the fact that the NHL lets it. Like the NHL has to come up with a way and say, hey, listen, you still got to be under the cap come playoff time. And it's going to change a whole dynamic of how a trade deadline goes and what teams go. Like, I mean, it's hard enough for teams to stay under the cap and be competitive, right? Now you have these teams. And then when you have a team that can find a loophole and go, well, this player's injured. And I'm not saying the player's not injured, right? Because they have to go through a third-party assessment in order to get LTIR. But once they're on that LTIR, unless you're the Montreal Canadiens, everyone's like, all right, he's injured. We're not going to look back at this. And, Shea Weber got like 2 casts on each leg, and they're like, oh, we better check his legs. I don't know if he's really hurt. And that's the issue. The only issue I have is that these teams that have been winning lately, Tampa, not so much Colorado. I don't know if Colorado did it. I'd have to go back and look. I think they were over, but I don't know by how much.
I don't think they did. I think they just had a strong team.
They did, but I think they were over. Montreal was actually over by about 870,000 when they went to the finals. But
a lot of people thought that Colorado was going to do it again. Was going to do it this year with Landeskog being out. Now we've learned that Landeskog is like very hurt.
He could be. He could be done. His career could be over.
It's pretty much already said that he's missing all next season.
Yeah. But yeah, Tampa twice, Vegas again. I don't know about Colorado. I'd have to look into it. They all use that cap thing and said, "All right, well, we get these guys in LTR. We'll grab some. We get enough money to grab these talented players on trade deadline, and hopefully by the time this playoffs start, our other talented guy will be back." So that makes your first, second, and third line pretty talented. Whereas a team like Florida, Montreal, and all those Cinderella teams, well, they got a great top 6 players. Our top line's really good. Our second line's pretty good. We could use one more player to make it even better.
Yeah, top 6 and rely on your goaltending.
Yeah, and give credit to Aiden Hill. He had a great playoffs too for a guy who was like in the AHL 2 years ago.
He played. I think he played in the AHL this year.
Yeah,
he
did.
Played for Henderson this year. So,
and it just goes to show that if you got hot goaltending in the playoffs, you're gonna win.
Yeah, he's up for a contract too.
Yeah, although Bobrovsky did play very well until they got to the. But then, I mean, they had Ekblad missing games. They had Monitor missed a game for the birth of his child. So they had a couple of their top defensemen out too. So that's why you lose 9-3.
Yeah.
They kind of gave up, though. I found the last 2 games, there was nothing. Florida had nothing. It wasn't even a pushback.
Well, because they were beat up
by
that depth on the other side. And they were running around a little bit. They were trying to play intimidator when Vegas was just calmly rebuffing it, saying we don't care what you're going to do. We're going to play our own game. Do whatever you want. We're going to beat you.
Now, if the Leafs were there, there's a new curse out, by the way. Any team who beats the Leafs in the first or second round loses in the Stanley Cup playoff finals. I think it's like 5 years in a row that's happened now.
Voila.
I saw that on Twitter. Oh well, Leafs.
The Leafs are already the favorite to win the cup next year, and if
of course they are.
That's not official, but just ask their fans.
Yeah,
it's our year. It's our year.
Plan the parade in October. Complain about the parade in December. Replan the parade in February, and then cancel the parade.
They gotta win. They gotta win the cup to keep Matthews around for a contract, right? So
I wouldn't be shocked if Matthews gone before the off season's over. Would not be shocked.
Well, they did go and get Shane Doan just to keep
him. Yeah. Well, in hopes that they could keep him.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's my question: how many cups and how many cup finals did Shane Doan and Brad Treliving take their teams to? How many playoff rounds have they won?
I know Doan's went to a final. I know that.
As a player.
Yeah.
Did he go to a final?
Not a final, a conference final.
Yeah.
For sure went to a conference final. But
that was that Cinderella run Arizona had in their one or second.
One, yeah.
I think they only made the playoffs like twice. I don't know. They haven't made it much.
No.
Calgary's made the second round a couple times.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I'm going to judge the Leafs based on what they look like in October. Right now, whatever. I could care less.
The Leafs are the same team. They're the core 4 with a bunch of fill-ins. Because that's all they can afford.
A rotating
group of fill-ins. Because that's all they can afford.
Their hope is that they could do what the other teams have done, like Vegas and the teams that don't have star goalies that have ended up winning. So they're looking at Samsonov and saying, hopefully we can get a tandem going and we can keep him rested so he can get hot in the playoffs without having to pay him very much.
They don't have the defense to do that, though. That's the problem.
There's that.
Vegas had a good defense. Tampa had a good defense. Toronto does not have a good defense.
That's their problem. And from that problem, we can talk about a certain problem that Winnipeg has. So in the news today, Sir Valley has confirmed the Jets chose not to elect for arbitration with Pierre-Luc Dubois, meaning he's getting traded. It's a guarantee now.
He is good as gone.
Yeah.
Bergie's getting his boy
In LA.
in LA. Wow. It all depends on what Montreal does at the draft, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's this ties in exactly with what we were the main focus of the show.
Yeah.
And the rumor of the Canadiens trading up, either to fourth or second, doesn't matter, trading up. So to get Dubois, they need to give up assets. To trade up, they have to do the same. Likely similar assets.
If not almost the exact same deal, depending on what the other team wants. I mean, to me, trading to fourth doesn't make a lot of sense. It only makes sense if you really want to stay away from deciding whether you want to pick Michkov or not. If San Jose does not pick Michkov, or they're not going to. Trading to second makes more sense to me, because then they're like, all right, we know we want a center. We know Carlson, Smith, or Fantelli are the top centers in this draft. Right now, I guess the consensus is Fantelli, although I did see Carlson move up in a couple to second and a couple mock drafts that I've seen. I think Sebastian High has Carlson second. Don't quote me on that. But I mean, what's it going to cost to get that second overall pick? It's going to cost your 2 first-round picks for sure. Plus.
True.
So what's left to get Dubois?
Why would you want to get Dubois?
Well, and that's the next question, because you're already getting a center. So now you have
it's going to be a one or the other scenario for sure.
Yeah. So now you got Suzuki, Doc, and Dubois as your centers,
which is a pretty good 1, 2, 3.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But I don't see them playing 1, 2, 3 either. I see one of them moving. Dubois
one would move
Doc
to the wing.
wing,
Doc.
yeah.
I think Doc would move to the wing. Yeah.
And then you go from there. But if you're trading and getting Fantelli, and I'm going to say Fantelli because I think he's going to be the second overall pick.
I think so too.
Then you have absolutely no need for Dubois, and Fantilli could possibly come to Montreal at the end of his college season if he wanted to.
Yeah.
He may not even go to college. Right now, there's debate he's debating openly whether or not he's going to return to college.
Then if he doesn't return,
but honestly,
college,
though, he had a guy in his rookie year win the Hobie Baker, and have a season that he had with going to the World Juniors. He played at the men's championship as well. He had such a good year. Does he really need to go back to college hockey?
But is he ready for the NHL?
Or would he be better prepared if he's given another year in the NCAA and plays a bigger role with Canada at the World Juniors?
Yeah. I wouldn't say no to that, of course.
I would argue that Fantelli's close to being NHL ready. I would argue that. Yeah. I would not argue, or I would not be upset if Fantelli was in the Montreal. If they pick, if they get him, if they get that spit and they draft him, he was in the Montreal's lineup to start the season. That would not faze me, and I wouldn't bother me at all.
And he's a big center. He's 6'2", 6'3".
He can play the wing.
On a line. He can play the wing. You put him on a line with, say, Slavkovsky and Anderson, and the Canadiens suddenly start looking much larger.
They're comparing this guy to a Nathan McKinnon, so that's a pretty good player.
I mean, that's okay, I suppose.
So,
I mean, it's like Blain. You and I watched
kind of thing.
You and I watched him at the World Juniors. I didn't think he had an overly fantastic World Juniors, but he definitely didn't hurt the team. He definitely didn't. He played a great two-way game. He played mostly wing, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He played center for the last couple of games in a checking role. Yeah. So he took on whatever role the coach gave him without complaint.
He didn't need to be that guy in that team.
That's just it. And that's the point I was trying to get.
Right. So
he did not need, they had Bedard and Wright that were,
at a whack.
Oh,
he did very well.
There's another guy that will be in, I think, Laval next year, but But yeah, I mean, so trading for 4 though, I don't know. I don't see the
So my thought on 4 is if Will Smith's available at 4. So if the top if 3 goes, if the top 3 go Bedard, Fantilli, Carlson, and it's Smith, we know that Ken Hughes has a relationship with Will Smith, right? He was
Yeah.
a coach of his, family friend, et cetera, right? And Smith's been open about that. He's talked openly about it. But is it worth making this trade or making a significant trade to move up one spot to get this player when you look at the top 5 and the other player that would be available would be Matvei Michkov
or Zach Benson
or Zach Benson or Ryan Leonard or whoever. There's a lot of different players that people are talking about, but the consensus say top 5. There's the 3 players that I name 1, 2, 3 with Smith and Michkov. And I'd be okay with any of those players. Obviously, you're not going to get Connor Bedard, but I personally just don't see it. I don't see the reasoning, because if you don't get Smith, then you're getting Matvei Michkov potentially for free. You're not giving up anything for him. You're just drafting him. And then as your core starts to develop, as some of these other contracts start going away, guys like Hoffman, etc., you're starting to get a little bit more money. Some of these other younger players are coming into your lineup, like a Joshua Roy, for instance. Slavkovsky's getting older. Then all of a sudden you bring in Michkov at 21 years old on an entry-level contract, and he can jump right into a top 6 role.
But not just that. If they're looking to trade to 4, it's because they don't want to have the headache of picking Michkov or not.
Right.
And that's exactly it.
You know, however, if you don't want to have the headache of picking, pick Zach Benson. Zach Benson's not going to, that pick's not going to hurt you.
Well,
in my
I mean,
opinion, in my opinion,
if they're going to stay at 5, they're probably going to go with Leonard anyway.
Yeah.
But they really do, if their goal is to add a center at the draft, and the thinking is perhaps Dubois is there and they trade for him, that's a center.
Yeah.
Or they trade up and get a center. So it could be Smith at 4 or Carlson if Columbus decides to go with Smith.
If they're focused on one player though, if they're focused on one player and they don't get that one player, so say if it's Will Smith, okay, I'll just spitball there. Say it's Will Smith. That's the guy that they want at 5. He's not available and they're not comfortable taking Michkov, and maybe they want to get as many assets as they can. Maybe they look at trading the pick. Maybe they reach out to a team like Detroit, who's got 9 and 17, and be like, what would it take? Is 5 something that you guys want to look into?
That'd have to be something pretty big from Detroit.
Yeah.
Like it'd have to be 9++.
Yep. So,
and if you do trade back, you're expecting who back there?
I would say Reinbacher if you're trading that far back.
Yeah, probably. But he may not be there because Arizona is rumored to be very hot and heavy on him.
Well, then they could take that left-hander. What's his name? Simichev. But then they got too many. Then again, you're no right-handers and 40,000 left-handers on the team.
Right.
But
there's no shortage of forwards that they can pick there either.
Well, Craig Button threw a wrench in everyone on his list with Pekaleka, whatever the hell.
That wasn't an actual list, though. That wasn't an actual list. So that's
who he expects to be good.
That's who he expects to be good. It wasn't supposed to be a mock draft. Somebody put that out from TSN after the fact and put it in as a mock draft, or put the picks beside what his were. And everyone just like, we're like, oh my God. Like, so.
Because when I seen that, I was like, What the hell is that?
Yeah, that's more of a potential. That's more of a potential thing that he put out.
Oh, okay. All right, Craig, you're
Now,
off the hook.
but here's something. If you are trading back, I don't think it's a defenseman they'd be looking for. They're still looking for size and skill up front.
Yeah.
If they trade back, they're getting one of those types of players that's a little bit further along.
Yeah.
Plus, I think they'll probably pick up on Dalibor Dvorsky.
Yeah, that's what I was
Could
thinking.
be.
I was thinking that, or if Leonard drops, maybe they would do that.
Dvorsky's been on the radar all year.
Yeah.
Yes. And for good reason. I mean, we've watched him play several times live. He was very good. And when he played against his own age group at the U18s, he dominated.
I do think, though, it'd be a mistake for Montreal to trade back. I think whoever they're getting at 5 is going to be a top 6, high top to elite type player. I truly believe. Whether it's Leonard, Benson, Smith, Mitchkov, doesn't matter who it is.
Right. You're getting an elite player. You're getting a top 6, maybe top 3 player from all of these guys.
Yeah.
And the only other guy that might be franchise is the biggest question mark right now of the draft of where he goes.
But is he franchise?
I think he's got that talent. I really do. I think he's got it. And not being able to see him play and him not being able to be on the international stage like some of these other players is hurt him. But I think whatever team takes a swing at him is going to get a very, very good player. And the further he drops, if he drops, some of those other teams are going to kind of kick themselves for not taking this guy.
Well, incarcerate Bob from Twitter, who, hey, laugh all you want. This guy is rarely wrong.
No, he's usually on.
Yeah.
He says that the Habs are hard in for Mitchkov at 5.
Yep.
And they're doing their due diligence.
As they should.
To ensure that if that's who they're drafting, that's who they're going to have in 3 years.
Well,
now
he wasn't at the combine.
He will be at the draft.
And he will be at the draft. A lot of people freaked out and they're like, oh my God, he's not at the combine. It's all good. But he will be at the draft. And I think that is going to show him being there in person and not being on a Zoom call or something like that is going to show his commitment.
And then when he defects,
yeah,
and we hide him in a church for a year.
Exactly.
There's an argument to be made that they don't need to get after Mitchkov because they already got Caulfield. You're essentially getting another player like Caulfield, undersized scoring winger.
Yeah,
it depends on if you think he's a next generational talent, then you're getting someone much better than Caulfield.
That's right.
Or you think he's on the same level as Caulfield. That's the way you gotta, you know what I mean? Like,
but at the same time, you have one of those on each of your top 2 lines, or have the 2 of them play together on a power play.
You won't see him on the same line because then you'd have the Smurf line back again of Petrov, Koivu,
but just imagine them on the power play, right? It's gonna bring them maybe from last in the league to 20th. Not last in the league, right? 29th, right?
I'll be honest. I'm okay with whoever they pick. I'm really okay with whoever they pick. Even if they take Reinbacher at 5, I'm okay with that.
I don't know. I don't know about Reinbacher. Like he's got all the skill. He's a
defensive defenseman, and that's what people are scared of.
Right?
But he isn't really. He's not. He's got offensive upside, and it's not fully tapped in. But the thing is, are you drafting for the floor, the player's floor, or are you drafting for a gigantic home run swing that you might completely whiff on?
Yeah, I think the only player that I'm actually comfortable with them taking outside of that top 5 that I named is Leonard.
See, I'm Benson. I'm on the Benson train.
I've seen him grow as a player, and
it's a short train.
And
Mitchkov's not much taller.
No. But outside the top 5, he'd be my wild card if they don't leave with Smith, Carlson, or Mitchkov. That he would be my wild card.
I'm pretty confident Carlson's not going to be available at 4 or 5. I'm pretty confident Columbus is going to take. Although I know Mark Scheig will say, "Hold on, now they still could take Smith," but I'm pretty sure Carlson's the Columbus. Columbus wants to win and win soon. They want to be back in the playoffs. They don't want to do a rebuild.
Well, they went out and kind of revamped their defense core within a couple days, right?
Carlson's a good big center. He's already playing amongst men in the SHL. Possibly could come over to the NHL next year. Possibly. I think that's who they're going for. Will Smith. I think Smith's a year or two away before he.
I'd say at least 2. I'd say at least 2
on the ice in the NHL. So, and that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with 3 years with Mitchkov. Benson or Leonard, whoever they pick, I'm okay. Actually, isn't Leonard, Benson, and Smith all playing together?
No, Benson. So no, Benson plays in Winnipeg.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah,
right. Benson's in the CHL, not the NCAA.
Yeah. So it's Smith, Smith, Moore, Gabriel Perreault,
right,
and Leonard. Yeah,
right. But going back to trading up, like we were saying, if you give up to trade up, you're going to give up everything you're going to want, or everything you're going to have to get, say, a Dubois.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I'm thinking if Dubois is the target,
they're not moving.
You're not moving, and you're taking probably a winger to complement that guy down the road. That would be Mitchkov or Ryan Leonard.
Yeah.
So here's what I think is going to happen. I think, yes, the Habs are doing their due diligence, they're doing all the checks. But when it comes time for the draft to begin, there won't be a trade in place right there. It all depends on who's available, what the teams think. If a trade is made to move up, we will not see a Dubois trade. But if the Habs are picking at 5, I fully expect to hear an announcement a few picks later that Dubois has been moved.
This is exactly what's going to happen, boys. Montreal's going to get Dubois, then trade him for the 2nd overall pick. Right away. Just got to say Connor Bedard, yay! And there's a trade to me. Montreal trades blah 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 for Dubois. And then there's a trade to be made. Montreal trades Dubois and blah 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 for. Called it.
The no move doesn't kick in till July 1.
Done. Boom. Montreal gets Austin Matthews from the Leafs and trades him to fucking Anaheim for the 2nd overall pick.
There you go.
Toronto gets
Anaheim overpaid.
Caden Primo. Toronto gets Caden Primo and hopes he can take him to the Stanley Cup.
True. No, I fully believe though that the trading up is their main focus right now, because then you get a player who's a younger, more cost effective, and under team control for longer, and he can be developed in whatever style they want him to be developed. Whereas Dubois is what he is. He might grow a little bit in his game, a little bit, but not a lot, and he'll be much more expensive, and he's a little bit older.
Yeah. It'd be really funny if this was just all smoke and mirrors. By he's just like, oh, I'm just gonna talk about 2. Hey, I'm gonna talk about 4. The next article is going to be like they're talking to Columbus, and then
Chicago and Montreal have been on the phone for 3 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. And anytime he picks up the phone at the draft, he's calling Chicago about 1. I saw it.
So that's what.
Look at an extra large pizza on table 7.
Yeah,
he's talking to Chicago. Look at him.
Yeah. Anybody from Chicago picks up a phone. It's like.
And then all of a sudden, all you hear is Stone Cold Steve Austin's music.
Yeah.
Hughes. Dun, 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 dun.
As Bedard in a Habs jersey.
Yeah.
No, you gotta have Ken Hughes coming out to make Vince McMahon's music and doing that.
Oh, and he's doing that strut, yeah.
Doing the strut.
Is it the Vince McMahon before he looked like Ansel Adams?
No, it's Vince McMahon back in the Stone Cold era.
Back in the jacked,
back in the
jacked, oiled up days.
Yeah. Back when he was no chance.
Yeah.
Before he looked like his face was stung by a bunch of bees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, I'll go for that. All right. Well, we're going off the rails. So how about we go with final thoughts? Matt, how about you?
I'm wearing a collared shirt, I think, on the show for the first time. So that's
I
something.
noticed that. I did notice that I'm like, why is Matt wearing a collar shirt?
It's not a violent gentleman shirt.
How
For
professional.
once. I am wearing collared
Dress with a
shirt.
difference.
Dress with a difference. Yeah. Final thoughts. I am very much looking forward to the draft. Tickets for my flights have been booked. Everything is looking good. Leave pass still hasn't been signed. It's okay though. It's only in 2 weeks. But other than that, very much looking forward to seeing you guys. It's been far too long.
I agree. It has. Treg, what about you? Final thoughts?
Same thing. Flight booked, hotels done, leave pass is signed.
You have a better boss than I do.
we don't do a lot where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just excited to go and get down there and see the draft. And it's funny how you said about picking up the phone because you see all that. And Blain has to go, so I'm just gonna say final thoughts is yeah, can't wait to see the draft and see you guys and see what happens.
Well, guys, I really do have to go. There's some going on upstairs I got to take care of, but I really appreciate. Oh, no, buddy lift. So, anyway.
All right, then I'll fin it.
Yeah. No, there's a guy at the door, and my kids were freaking out because they don't know who the hell it was. And he left. So, screw him. Anyway, Treg, any more stuff?
No, I can't wait to see you guys at the draft. Anyone else who's going to the draft, come see us. We're going to be somewhere. And it'll be fun. And all I was going to say was, Matt, when you're pointing about people picking up the phone, when you're at a draft, if you've never been to one, it's amazing because that's exactly what people, as soon as they see someone pick up a phone, like they could be
or somebody having a conversation
over the side. Like we saw the Hextall and Hughes talking there for a while. So I'm taking pictures and tweeting. I also did one of Elliot Friedman and he thought that was funny, but
and he never came on the show.
He didn't. He said he would. Elliot, I'm disappointed. Yeah. He's a busy man though. He's a very busy man.
He is. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the draft as well. And like Matt, my leave pass is in, but not approved yet.
Surprise.
And I'm a Chief, so what are you gonna do? Yeah, no, it should be a lot of fun going to Nashville. I haven't been there yet. I hear it's a lot of fun. Check it out. Laura Saba from Locked On Canadiens has given me a few pro tips on where to go and find some decent food or shows.
We got some too. A friend of ours was just down there and they gave us some tips on where to go for good times. And I'll be 14 weeks out, so I don't know how much fun I can have, but we'll see. See.
You are going to be eating so much barbecue. It's okay. You'll throw it up later that night. You're good to
go. it'll be chicken and rice for this guy.
No, it's going to be, that's what all the models do, right?
We'll see. Well, I got permission from my trainer Mason to relax that week and
done.
Just don't go overboard.
Okay. So nothing.
If anyone knows of any good gyms in Nashville, let me know.
Jim Bean. Boom.
I think we know where Matt's going to be in Nashville.
And his trainer, Jack Daniels.
It should be a lot of fun.
I'm going to probably be in jail. That's probably where I'm going to be.
And all right. So for me, my final thought is Canada's forests make up nearly 9% of the world's total forest area. So when you're out or having a fire, don't do it when it's dry outside, or you'll end up burning half a city down like they did here. Dicks. All of them. Whoever set that fire is a dick.
You are what you eat.
True. Big old bag of dicks. All right, so I want to thank everybody.
Ladies.
I want to thank everybody for sticking with us this long as we went completely off the rails. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for all the interactions you guys have been sending us, all these emails, messages. We appreciate that. Keep them coming.